everyone, and welcome back for episode 46 of the Simply One podcast. I'm your host, Colin, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris.
How we doing, everybody?
We're just a couple of best friends who are passionate about all things pop culture. If you're looking for lukewarm takes on movies, video games, TV shows, or even the occasional comic, then we have the show for you.
That's right. That's right. That's us, baby.
Yeah. Just jumping in. I wasn't even done saying the word. We got the show for you. You're like, yeah, we do.
That was legitness.
Yeah, it was. This week, we are giving all of our thoughts, like not one missing. All of our thoughts on the premiere episode of HBO's The Last of Us series.
Yeah.
Obviously, this was on both of our lists last week for,
Pretty high priority.
most anticipated projects of this year, but one of my most anticipated just in general.
Oh, yeah. Especially with Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, he's going to have a good year.
Oh, yeah.
March 1st. We're supposed to be getting a Mandalorian trailer tonight. I was trying to put it off and see if it would post to YouTube, because they're airing it during Monday Night Football.
They released a new football... Damn it, have you seen football? They released a new poster for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the season 3.
And so I was kind of trying to wait off on recording to see if they'd post it on YouTube, and they hadn't posted it yet. So we'll just talk about that next week.
Yeah.
But full stop. We're excited for this.
Oh,
We're excited to talk about it, but before we do, we have to talk about. Did you end up finding news?
Very little.
Very little. So before we talk about The Last of Us, we have to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, his new trailer, which literally dropped like right after we were done recording.
Yeah.
It was like, oh shit, that's a new trailer. We got some news about the future of the Silent Hill franchise, the video game franchise. How the Batman and the DCU will coexist.
Okay.
And the Alien series that's entering production this year for FX. So
very excited to hear
what news do you got for us?
Yeah, so I got more important news here.
Sure, yeah, I expected you would.
So
that was sarcasm. I didn't expect that.
We're going to be talking about the Critic Choice Awards.
Yeah.
For all the actors, actresses, movies that were nominated and elected. And then after that, as well as I have some very important information from the most reliable resource, Instagram.
Sure.
About Michael Bay, with some...
Oh, yeah, about the pigeon?
Yeah, with some charges.
Yeah.
Someone, apparently he killed a pigeon. So dive more into that later, but why don't you go ahead and read yours first?
Yeah, let's see. So starting in with Ant-Man. Dude.
Lay it on me. Like, dude, put it on me.
I want it on me. I think, no pun intended here, it looks bigger than anything that we've seen since Endgame, I think, just as far as, like, possible implications or, like, far-reaching, results. We talked about it off air. It's even being, like, advertised in the trailer as, like, what do they call it? The beginning of a new dynasty. I'm like, Kang Dynasty,
Yep. You're reeling me in?
Yeah, a little wink and a nod, I've seen a lot of people talking about potential connections to Shang-Chi and or Ms. Marvel. Okay. Just with the design of, like, Kang's, I don't know if it's, like, his palace or what, you know what I mean? But the area that they seem to be in, where there's a lot of ring-like structures, and they kind of don't look dissimilar from the 10 Rings. And there's been a theory going on that, like, the 10 Rings and Ms. Marvel's bangles are actually future tech from, like, the 31st century that Kang is trying to go back to get. Like, he's left for himself, basically.
Yeah, to help him.
Yeah. And I think that'd be a neat way to kind of...
Woo.
They're... I don't want to say that they, like, okay, we're doing that again. But, like, they're kind of like the Infinity Stones of, like, here's these important pieces that if he's able to get all these and use them, he'd be pretty frickin' powerful if he has all of these, weapons, right? It definitely feels like, and I think they're doing a Marvel, maybe, and they're faking us out, but it definitely feels like they're setting Scott up to die in this.
A little bit.
Which I feel like would be a Marvel fake out, would be like, yeah, but we're not going to do that. You know what I mean? But it'd be a good way to make Kang like a bad guy.
Fuck, yeah, like he kills Ant-Man.
Yeah, he kills the title character in his movie. And, we saw multiple variants of Ant-Man in the trailer, so they still have a way out of, like,
sure.
Well, yeah, but here's a Scott who is the same, except he didn't die.
Yeah.
Right. We got to look at MODOK,
Yes.
who appears to be Darren Cross from the first Ant-Man movie. And I actually saw on TikTok where they were showing like the scene from that Ant-Man when like he defeats Darren Cross. And you see like he's kind of like his arms are shrinking and then exploding and like real big and all that. And yeah, it just seems like his body proportions are getting all, where he's being shrunk down to the quantum realm. Yeah. And so it's like, well, maybe that's why his head is the only thing that's, you know, just boom, he's just mega mind, you know, and just a tiny little body floating in there. And so I think that's kind of an interesting way of like, that's definitely not MODOK's origin in the comics, right? But in universe of the MCU, that's a nice way to tie him in, and it makes sense, you know, and loop it back to being related to Ant-Man still.
Sure.
But it looks good, and I like that line from Scott where it seems like he and Kang are fighting, and Kang's like, you know, you really think you're gonna win? You're not gonna win this. And it definitely looks like he's got Scott on the ropes. Like he's busted his face mask and everything, and Scott tells him like, I don't have to win. I just have to make sure we both lose.
Yeah.
You know. And it's like, ooh.
That's some Dormammu shit right there with Doctor Strange.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like that's the ultimate sacrifices, you know.
I'm willing to lose if it means that you do too. Right. Yeah, that I'm not here to win. I'm just here to
make sure that you don't.
Yeah, my victory is you losing, right? Regardless of the cost.
No, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, I am too. And it does. It just feels like, okay, now, like, I hope, because it seems like they're advertising it that way. This seems like the movie that's going to give us a projection of like, okay, here's where we're headed. Yeah. Yeah, because we kind of talk about that where so far the MCU, this phase hasn't felt
pretty
very
unclear.
Yeah.
It's very scrambled.
And I've been seeing a lot of, I mean, they are rumors where people are like, hey, there's been leaks about Captain America 4, the New World Order, and that it's going to revolve around nations trying to claim, I can't think of the name of the island, but basically you haven't seen the Eternals, have you? So in the climax of the Eternals, there's a Celestial that's being born from Earth. Earth's basically an egg for this Eternal. And there's just an Eternal, or not an Eternal, sorry, a Celestial, like halfway sticking out of the Earth. Word. And like it's pretty big. I mean, it's like, why has this not been mentioned? I think there's like a newspaper clipping in She-Hulk, and that's basically it. But the theory is, or like the rumor is that it's going to revolve around a bunch of nations basically trying to stake claim to that because it has adamantium in it, which will kind of end up being like, because since Wakanda's all shut down on the vibranium and things like that, as well as now with obviously they're not being able to mine for vibranium in the sea. You know, they're going to look to adamantium as like, oh, here's a new rare earth metal, right? And it'll be like a resource war. And so I do like that. Okay, that's one way to connect the Eternals back in and things like that. But yeah, I'm hoping that this Ant-Man really kind of gets us, greases the wheels up a little bit. Yeah. Do you want to do back and forth? Or you just want me to plow through all mine?
Yeah, we'll go back and forth. Let me see here.
Did you have any more thoughts on Ant-Man?
No, I'm very excited for it. Yeah. But like I agree with you though. I could see Scott dying. Yeah. But yeah, and like that's the thing is like it would suck because I really like Paul Rudd playing Scott, but that would be a pretty like badass way. Like that'd be pretty cool. So I have here. I'm not sure how liable it is, but it's celebrity news. Okay. So, I mean, you know, it's pretty.
Right. Is this the one about the?
Yeah, it's about the 2023. Yeah,
I mean, it's not like
right.
We're not into rumor territory here. These are just here's who won.
But I just wanted to go through some of the ones that let me see here that kind of would poke out to us in particular.
You said what now?
Yeah, you heard what I'm saying.
You heard.
Let's see. Okay, so for the film Best Picture award.
Yeah.
The nominees were Avatar: Way of Water, Babylon, The Banshees of Inisherin?
Could be. Yeah, I mean, I know the movie you're talking about with Colin Farrell.
Yeah, or the new Elvis movie. And the winner was, and the other one was Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah. And that was the winner.
I thought Everything Everywhere All at Once won.
And then, let me see here. It's all weirded up. So for Best Actor, The contenders were Austin Butler playing Elvis, Tom Cruise in Top Gun, Colin Farrell in The Banshees of Brendan Fraser in The Whale, Paul Mescal in After Sun, and Bill, is it Nighy?
Yeah.
In The Living, and Brendan Fraser won in The Whale.
Gave a really emotional.
I still really want to see. Is it streaming anywhere?
I don't think so. I think right now it's just in like a limited release in theaters. I don't know if it's going to go into an expanded release or anything like that.
That's a real stinker because I really want to see. I'll have to see.
Yeah.
What have I been thinking about? That's what I've been thinking
about. Like how swingy your head was. That's what I've been thinking about.
That's what I've been thinking about. Let's see. Best Supporting Actor. Paul Dano from The Fabelmans.
Yeah.
Brendan Gleeson in The Banshees of Judd. Oof. Man, these names are tough, man. Judd Hirsch in The Fabelmans. Barry Keoghan.
Yeah, Barry Keoghan.
In The Banshees of
I think his name's like maybe Barry Keoghan. He's the one that was going to play the Joker in the Batman.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher it and I feel awful.
Ke-Huy Quan?
Yeah, okay, I was going to pronounce it correct then.
Yeah.
Ke-Huy Quan from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
And then Brian Henry. There's like no, there's his middle
fucking name.
It was his middle name. I thought it was his last name, but I could just skip it. So, man, these last names, Henry from Causeway.
People with these weird ass names, Henry. What?
Henry, man, I don't know.
I hope I said that right.
But Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, Ke-Huy Quan won.
Yeah, he won. And then. Better straighten up. Best acting ensemble. The Banshees of Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Glass Onion, The Woman King, Woman Talking, and Glass Onion was the winner.
Ooh, good. That's a tough category too.
Which again, we talked about The Woman King, which I didn't see anywhere in theaters.
And I feel like it came and went.
Yeah, and I really wanted to see it.
But I heard that it was decent.
I heard nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
I heard nothing about it. And then the last one here I'll talk about, because there's a specific one.
I forget, did Michelle Yeoh not win Best Actress?
Oh, let me see here.
Because I know that she did at the Golden Globes, as well as Ke-Huy Quan.
No, Best Actress in a drama series. Oh, that's a drama series. Was Zendaya from Euphoria. Which, again, is another show I really want to watch. I heard it's very good. Best Supporting Actress was...
Stephanie Hsu.
Angela Bassett.
Oh, okay. And
from Black Panther.
Mm-hmm. Was Stephanie Hsu nominated?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was.
I say she's the Dobu Daki or...
What was your question?
Best Actress in a Drama.
Was... is it Kate Blanchett?
Kate Blanchett, yeah.
Blanchett. In the movie, is
it like Tar?
Tear?
Yeah.
Tear? Yeah.
I didn't see that movie, but
No.
I was really pulling for Michelle Yeoh. Was she even nominated?
No, she was. Yeah, she was nominated.
Okay, good.
Babylon. That's another movie. Apparently, I heard it's really good. That one.
Yeah, it got absolutely slaughtered at the box office.
Nuh-uh.
Oh yeah, hard. Like it cost like $100 million to make, and then it's made like $30 million.
What the fuck?
Like, I mean, just assaulted. And then you've got Avatar pushing $2 billion right now.
Puss in Boots, though.
Yeah, Puss in Boots has made $250 million.
Yeah, they've been crushing it.
Which makes, this isn't on my news, but makes it so that this is the first year in who knows how long that DreamWorks Animations outgrossed every Pixar and Disney Animations film that released this year.
Dude. Like...
Pixar have been lacking lately. I'm going to say it.
And also, like, DreamWorks has been upping. Mm-hmm. Like, they've been on.
And they're making a Shrek 5.
They got their money up, not their funny up.
Yeah, like, How to Train Your Dragon? Stop playing.
Dude, fucking.
Like, do not.
Fucking quit.
Straighten up right now.
Like, don't you dare.
Is that all you got over there?
And then that is it for this segment of news. Yeah.
All right. Talk about. Silent Hill. So,
yes, tell me all about it.
Yeah, so series producer, I'm going to butcher this name. Henry? No. Matoy Okamoto gave an in-depth interview with IGN, actually, to kind of talk about them reviving the franchise.
Yeah.
And he kind of spoke about how they were trying to figure out, okay, what do we want to focus on moving forward and like, in revitalizing the franchise and trying to find like the core theme, I guess, of what Silent Hill is. And they settled on like psychological horror as the thing that separates it from other games.
Sure.
Which is why their, like, I guess, like their flagship project is a remake of Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
It's because Silent Hill 2 is like the quintessential Silent Hill game. But they did talk about how, like, it encapsulated the tone and they want Silent Hill to have going forward, and that it has that strong psychological horror vibes to it. But that they had to get multiple projects in the works in secret, so that way when they announced one, they could announce all of them. So that way it was apparent that they were genuinely reinvesting in the franchise, and that it wasn't just like, oh, they're cashing in on Silent Hill 2 as a remake.
Listen, I just want to see more Pinhead or Triangle Head.
Pyramid head.
Pyramid head. Triangle head.
He doesn't have the point. It's just a triangle.
That was
Pinhead. No. Triangle head.
No, Patrick, you're Pinhead Larry. Who you calling Pinhead? And then I just went, no, not a pin, a triangle.
A pyramid. We're working in 3 dimensions here, bub.
Bingo.
Bingo. But no, and so he mentioned that there were actually multiple projects that just never got off the ground. That he was kind of disappointed about, but also, like he said, it was hard for them to get a lot of projects started because they were trying to keep it quiet.
Sure.
So they can't just like toss out a big net and be like, hey, if you got any ideas for Silent Hill,
right,
bring them in. So they kind of had to quietly reach out to somebody and be like, you don't got anything for Silent Hill, do you? And so some of those were good ideas and some of those just didn't go anywhere. But he said he's really excited now that the cat's out of the bag to start getting a bunch of pitches in, because they are trying to focus on working with indie devs. What?
First 1 second.
You think I said bitches?
Getting some bitches in. No, they're getting the money up, not your funny up.
And they are getting. He's excited to get pitches in from indie developers because that's who they're working with primarily.
Sure.
To, I don't want to say outsource, but that way they can ensure that multiple projects are getting made in a timely fashion, and that they can kind of all feel different while still having like that Silent Hill, soul to it, right? But that here's this developer's idea of a Silent Hill game, and like he talked about, Bloober Team is the developer that's working on the Silent Hill 2 remake, and like he said, they showed a deep understanding of Silent Hill 2 and what it meant to them and things like that, and that it was interesting because they were apparently a Polish developer, and Konami is a Japanese company, and Silent Hill is a Japanese style horror game, and so he said it's kind of interesting to start to get other people's thumbprints on the franchise, and how a 20-year-old franchise has that reach now of like art is once you put it out there, it's not yours anymore, it's the people that are receiving the art. Now they own it, and so for them to then turn around and create something from it was kind of a nice.
What was the franchise name?
Silent Hill.
No. Or the
Bloober Team. I forget what.
I feel like, didn't they do something with Capcom?
Let me look up here.
SOCOM?
Let's see. Bloober Team. I remember that I looked them up before. So they made Layers of Fear, which is a good game. Blair Witch, Observer, The Medium was a pretty big game on PlayStation or Xbox, I think.
I think it was like the same time.
No, it doesn't look like they.
That Witch, it's.
No, it looks like Layers of Fear was their first game.
No, I don't think it was their first game. It was like SOEKAHN. Soak on these nuts. I was trying for a while and it just wasn't working. I was really trying, man.
So, what's your next piece of news there? Since got your
Michael Bay killed a pigeon, and I'm in a fucking uproar. Let me tell you.
I like that. That's the charges that we're bringing up in the news, not Justin Roiland.
We're talking. No, yeah, Michael Bay is facing charges for allegedly killing a pigeon in Italy on the set of 6 Underground.
That's like a 4-year-old movie.
No, Michael Bay.
Italy's slow on the draw.
Yeah, a little bit. Michael Bay declines and denies these claims, saying that no animal involved in the production was injured in any way, shape, or form, or harmed. Or any other production.
Shut up.
Or any other production that I've worked on. But other than that, he hasn't been answering any questions, which kind of like fucking pisses me off because it's like
that. It's just 4 years later, Italy's like, we're gonna fucking get you for that pigeon. So Matt Reeves revealed that his films and shows, all set in the world of the Batman with Robert Pattinson, is being referred to as the Batverse, and that James Gunn and Peter Safran have been great to work with. Apparently, he's meeting with them in the coming weeks to really like nail down how the two universes can be co-developed a bit, basically, without stepping on each other's toes. Or basically, they're going to meet and sit down and talk about, hey, here's, because Peter Safran and James Gunn, their 10-year plan is done.
Yeah.
And they're going to be kind of slowly announcing what that looks like. And so they just want to sit down with Matt Reeves and make sure that, because presumably Batman is going to come up in the DCU, Right. And so they just want to make sure that they're not, oh, we were doing the Mr. Freeze at the same time as you, and now it's kind of awkward, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't want to bump up against each other, which is nice.
Well, yeah, it's a good thing. It's a thing of respect, I feel.
And apparently, so the Batverse is well underway, even though there's only one movie out, right? A sequel is already, in some stage of production.
Nice.
Sounds like it's still pre-production where they're writing. But also 3 spin-off series are in the works. Including that Penguin series that we talked about way back when, which starts production next month in February.
I'm so fucking excited.
I am
excited.
And so I like the idea that...
Open your eyes!
What are you showing me?
What am I looking at?
Oh my gosh! But, so I do like you said, that from a cooperation standpoint, it's good that James Gunn, because we were really kind of concerned.
Yeah, it's good sportsmanship, I feel.
And I mean, if it's making money... You know what I mean?
Keep it.
It was successful. There's no reason to chop
one
of the few good projects that DC's had.
That's sticking.
Yeah, so you figure that, and then obviously they're going to keep moving forward with Joker, too, because it was an R-rated movie that broke $1 billion in October.
Yep.
So they're like, yeah, we're definitely going to make a sequel to that.
Something in the way.
Well, what was the one you said at work? My stomach's in the way.
So I was fucking at work, what? Was I at work? Or
yeah, you said you were at work.
I was at work, and I was like all pressed up against the window, and I was just like, feeling very.
It was right after I
saw Batman, and I was just feeling real like into it, and I was just, my stomach's in the way.
Out of all the memes of like. Where it's a POV on TikTok of like someone looking around before they litter, and they just hear, "Hey, pick that up," and it's just boom, 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 boom.
They're just beating the piss out of them. If your stomach's ever been in the way, send us an email at simplywellmailbag@gmail.com. So, according to NBC News, Rick and Morty co-creator Justin Roiland faces felony domestic violence charges. It says, looks like these charges were charged with domestic battery and false imprisonment in May of 2020 after an incident with a woman he was dating, according to a criminal complaint.
I read that he posted bail of $50,000 back in May of 2020, I think. May or March of 2020.
So I'm looking at right. Yep, May of 2020, released on a $50,000 bail bond in August of 2020.
And now they're into pre-trial hearings.
Yeah. The order lasts until October of 2023 and is not known.
What, a restraining order?
Yeah. Roland cannot go within 100 feet of the person, according to the order. It says it looks like here. The order was also demanding Roland to turn in any firearms or own possessed weapons. Yeah. And then that lasts until October of 2023 until they can get it all figured out.
Right. And I believe I read that maybe one of his lawyers had said to the press that there is a plea deal available. So, obviously there's always 3 sides to stories like this where it's, the victim, the alleged victim, the alleged perpetrator, and then the truth is somewhere in there as well.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's just a case of, stay out of it and see what comes of it.
Yeah.
That was just kind of shocking to see. And then to find out that apparently it was in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, and that really sucks because, I mean, he came out and, he made an award-winning video game High on Life, as well as the multiple seasons of Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
And then he also made, there's another one he made. Oh, shit. I can't remember. There's another TV show. It's on Hulu, but it's made by him, but it's about something else, basically about, like, people in a simulated living area, and they're like office workers.
Yeah.
But just doing something that horrific.
Yeah. Well, allegedly, obviously, it's all still alleged. So, I just thought that was that's one of those where I saw that headline, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, and you just didn't expect it either, because I mean, whenever we've seen him in like interviews or anything,
yeah. Well, I guess that's the whole thing of like,
and that's
obviously innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, right.
But if it's true, it's that case of like, oh man, that's the difference between a public persona and a private persona.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't, and that's a kind of a hard part of like social media and things like that now. Is like, no matter how close you think you are to a celebrity, you aren't.
You're not.
You're only seeing what they and their team allow you to see. So that's kind of I think a thing that, and I hope this doesn't turn into like a Johnny Depp trial.
Yeah, I really hope not, man. Like,
why do we need to pick sides of a trial? It feels weird to turn it into like reality TV.
As goofy as it sounds, like it was an interesting trial.
Yeah.
To kind
there was
of
like a morbid curiosity kind of entertainment value,
and then especially with like at certain points, like obviously it started to get publicized, and
it turns into a court of public opinion.
Yeah, and then like people are making jabs because they know they're on like live TV, just like that guy who worked on TMZ.
Yeah,
that big old roast session. Yeah. But I am curious to know what's going on.
Yeah,
I'd be cool if like they recorded it and then didn't release it until after it was done.
Yeah, because there is just that weird like, why is it a public affair?
Right. It shouldn't be.
It doesn't need to be.
I'd be okay with waiting until then, but I am curious to know.
Yeah. So, last bit of news I've got. Was that the only things you had? Okay, I thought so. Yeah. So, Aliens, the Alien series that's coming to FX.
Yes.
Ridley Scott is set to produce the series, which is going to be helmed by the showrunner Noah Hawley, who has worked on the FX series Fargo. Okay. And he's actually working on the 5th season right now. Apparently, he already has scripts for the Alien series written and is in pre-production. Pre-production is well underway. Basically, so that way when he finishes Fargo season 5, they can just roll into production on Alien. So he's going to be busy if he's moving just from production of one to production of another.
Yeah.
But depending on how involved he is with like day-to-day production on Fargo, it might be a case of once the show is under production, he doesn't have to be as involved on hands-on. I mean, but the series is said to be set on Earth approximately 70 years from now.
Okay.
As the core cast attempts to contain the spread of the xenomorph threat. So I'm not really sure how this is going to fit into like the greater Alien like timeline, just because the more prequel stuff that they make, the less sense it makes.
Yeah, it's a little all over the place.
Yeah, it's really messy, and I mean, it's just like, man, stop making prequels.
Yeah.
Like, you need to somehow insert time travel just so you can go.
Please,
this is a new timeline. Hell, reboot it. It's it's an almost 50-year-old franchise.
Sure, go for
it. Just reboot it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
But I enjoy the Alien stuff. If it's anything like Prey, where that was definitely a franchise that was on the ropes.
Yeah, they had it.
Where it's like if they make one more bad Predator movie, just put it away.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where Alien is at. Is like,
so they really got to knock it out.
You got to make this a good one, because otherwise, just stop.
Yeah.
Prometheus wasn't good. I can't think. It was Alien Covenant, I think, was the...
Yeah, that one was...
And that was not good. It's like, all right, stop. And Alien vs. Predator movies are just not good. I think Requiem is the second one, and it's better, I think.
I liked the... I think it was Aliens.
The second one with... Yeah, well, that's probably... So, it's a classic case. Alien is an excellent horror movie, the original one. And then Aliens is a fantastic action movie.
Yeah. Because is that the scene where, like, what is it? They're climbing up on the ladder, and the one's, morphs, like, dead on the guy, but he's, like, hanging on his foot, and he's trying to, like, cut off the rope to get him off and stuff like that, and he's starting to drool, or, like, he's bleeding on the guy behind him, and it's hitting on his shoulders and stuff like that, and, it's acid, and I remember watching that as a kid, and that scared the piss out of me.
I just love the character of Ellen Ripley.
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver, just what a badass character. To put a woman in that role in the 70s was kind of a bold big move. Deal. And I love to quote in Aliens when she's defending Newt, the little girl, from the queen with the mech suit, get away from her, you bitch. And you're like, get in there, Ripley, get that bitch, and she just ejects her out into space. Yeah, good movie. Fuck, I gotta watch Alien.
Yeah, I gotta watch it.
I bet they're on Hulu. Since Fox.
Oh, fuck. All right.
Jamie, pull it up.
What you been thinking about?
Yeah. No, don't pull it up. We'll look it up.
We'll move on.
It's time to talk about The Last of Us.
Dude, that's what's happening.
Oh, shit, we're not recording. I'm fucking with you. Did you have a heart sink?
A little bit. I was like, man, we've been talking for
40 minutes.
Yeah, for like a while. This is gonna be a long episode too. Like,
if it just wasn't recording, I'd almost say just record tomorrow. Yeah. You got a synopsis? Oh my god, I gotcha.
No, you got me lacking. Jamie, pull that up.
Are you telling me to pull it up?
Yep.
You saying you want me to read mine?
Yep.
Joel and Ellie, a pair connected to the harshness of the world they live in, are forced to endure brutal circumstances and ruthless killers on a trek across post-pandemic America. Yes. So, on IMDb, it's already got a 9.5 out of 10. Dude.
Yeah.
Killing it. Mm-hmm. I know that the initial reviews had it at a 90 or a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critic score for like a moment. It was like the first 26 reviews came in and it was 100%.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, that's what you want to see, right? But even still, I believe it's sitting at let me pull up Rotten Tomatoes. I had it up on the computer, but not on the tablet. So, yeah. All right. So right now the critic score is sitting at a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the audience score is 96.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. What the fuck?
What'd you say?
It's getting all breathy. I said they blew it out of the fucking water.
She said I need some fucking water. Yeah. I was like, all right, get some. Like, drink your drink.
Water.
Oh, I'm getting dry.
She's empty.
I just spilled my water all down the front of myself like an animal. So you got Pedro Pascal in the main role, Joel. Joel Miller. Bella Ramsey is playing Ellie. We got Nico Parker plays Sarah.
Yes.
And Gabrielle Luna is playing Tommy. Mm-hmm. So, spoiler-free plot thoughts. I thought the cold open that they did, I don't want to talk about what the cold open contained.
Sure.
But I thought the cold open was a good way to show, like, how it's going to be different from the game.
Sure.
And really kind of just set up expectations for the first, at least half hour of the episode. Mm-hmm. I thought it did a great job of translating the game with small tweaks so that it kind of better fit the TV format. Mm-hmm. As a fan of the game, I do wonder, I don't really have any, spoiler alert, I don't really have anything negative to say about the episode.
I don't have anything negative to say, but there are a couple things I wanted to point out.
Mm-hmm. And so I said, as a fan of the game, I do wonder if the series will be able to thread the needle and avoid being an exact copy, which would kind of make the adaptation pointless.
And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about.
But then it also has to balance that of, you can't change it too much because then it's not faithful.
Right. It's just too different of a story. Yeah. You have to, and that's, like you're saying, threading that needle, that's a very fine line.
Yeah.
You gotta
and as of right now, I don't think there's any concern for that, but we've only seen 90 minutes. So I think there is potential there of, I might as well just play the game again. Or, you know what? This isn't the game, in a negative way. Mm-mm. So far, I think they've done it. Yeah. Of managing to be both. But, obviously only time will tell. We've got 9 episodes and we've only seen 1. Mm-hmm. I thought the pace was good.
Yeah.
For being a 90-minute premiere, I didn't think it felt like it was running long. You know, I never found myself going like, okay, come on, keep moving.
Right.
And I did think that it actually managed to bring like the horror into it, especially in that like the first 30 minutes on like Outbreak Day.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's some, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
What would you have for plot thoughts?
As far as
Try and keep it spoiler free. And we're also going to try and keep, we talked about it before we recorded, we're going to try and only talk about it as a TV series to avoid spoiling things from like the game if you haven't played it, and to hopefully avoid spoiling the series.
As far as like plot thoughts, I thought it was super smooth. Same thing. I never ran into the issue of like, all right, this is feeling slow. You know, where am I? You know, what's going on?
Yeah.
As far as like the introduction to everything, I felt like that cold open still in a weird way had a really nice flow to it.
Yeah.
It just was on pace, as if like throughout the entire episode there was a beat to everything.
Yeah, you felt like it was moving
when that
forward.
cold open, you start on the beat and it just follows everything, and it had it had that nice flow to it.
Yeah, well, because I mean, by the design of it being a game originally, the game has very much a like you're supposed to be moving forward, right? And I think the plot of it being a road trip, obviously is conducive to moving forward, right? And this already kind of has that feeling of like we're constantly moving, which I think will help with pacing of like, you know,
not feeling sluggish.
Yeah, we're not gonna slow down and hang out here for forever. We're not gonna have a whole season on a farm
it's
like The Walking Dead.
Yeah, it's constantly tense.
Yeah, we're moving forward, and once they get outside of a quarantine zone, you know, they're in danger, right?
And I just wanted to say, The Last of Us, is very special to both of us individually, but it is very special to both of us as a friends, because this is how we met.
Yeah.
This is The Last of Us is how we met through the factions.
Yeah. Well, we met through work and then
but like that was the biggest thing that we both were like, oh, you like that?
Yeah.
And
so yeah, there is some personal bias.
Oh yeah.
Where
but also that makes us like
harder critics,
especially with like the expectation level that we're going to have with it.
Yeah.
But then continuing on like pacing and everything like that, there is one thing I wanted to talk about, which I think we'll talk about
in spoilers.
Probably in spoilers, because it's a specific detail in there.
Okay.
But no, everything had a good flow to it, and even the camera shots. Yeah. I thought in the first one
so apparently this one was directed by Craig Mazin, who did Chernobyl.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, but like there's can we talk about the episode itself yet, or do we want to?
We'll talk about characters and chemistry, and then we'll talk about the episode.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
We'll get into spoilers.
We'll move forward then.
So characters and chemistry, I didn't have much like specifics. I just said that first of all, I think the brightest part of the episode was Nico Parker as Sarah. Yeah. I thought she did a really good job. She takes up quite a bit of screen time.
Oh yeah.
And I think so. I was looking at her IMDb. She is a nepotism baby. her mother is Tandy Newton, who's in Westworld. Okay. But she's only had, this is her fourth role. And her first role was in Dumbo in 2019. Okay. So she hasn't been acting long. She's 18 years old.
She's 18?
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that was a good casting as far as she looks young. Yeah. You know, but her mom's that way. Tandy Newton's like 50 years old and doesn't look it.
I swear to God, I thought she was like 13.
13, yeah. Which I guess that was the intent.
Good job.
You know? Yeah. Bella Ramsey, I thought did a really good job as Ellie. Yeah. Kind of nailed her attitude.
How old is Bella Ramsey?
Bella Ramsey's 20, I think. I was looking her up. I'm pretty sure she's 20.
Again, Bella Ramsey looks young.
Yeah, you get the youth. I mean, it's like a Tom Holland, you know.
Yeah, I guess that's
true.
It's
that beautiful part of let's get an adult, but they need to be an adult that can pass as a child.
Because I'm 21 and I look like I'm 30. Fucking 30.
Yeah. Hey, it happens to the best of us.
I'm the real life Benjamin Button, except I just don't get younger. I'm old.
No, there's a movie with Robin Williams called Jack, where have you ever seen it? It's a good movie, but he's got like some disorder where he has rapid aging, and like by the time he graduates high school, he looks. I mean, he's elderly.
Mm-hmm.
That's you. You're just a 40-year-old man. You're the body of a 40-year-old man playing in a treehouse with a bunch of 11-year-olds. You know. My sciatica. I thought that Pedro Pascal did a good job of being Joel without feeling like he was just doing an impersonation of Troy Baker as Joel. Mm-hmm. Which I was watching some behind the scenes stuff, and Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin both talked about that. Of like, I think with Neil Druckmann specifically referenced the Tim Burton Batman from '89 as like that was his Batman, and so Jack Nicholson was his Joker,
right?
And then when they announced that Heath Ledger was going to be the Joker in The Dark Knight, he was one of the people that was like, I just don't see that, And then it came out, and
it's like that's
another, they're both
Joker,
mm-hmm. And he kind of had that same mindset coming to this of like, he very personally knows Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker as Joel and Ellie, but these are also Joel and Ellie, right? And they're going to be slightly different. This is going to be their take on those characters, but they'll still be Joel and Ellie,
right?
And I think that feels true so far.
Yeah.
Gabrielle Luna, if nothing else, has the voice down.
Yeah.
Like there was a point where there's a phone call and you can just hear him through the phone, and it sounds like a line from the video game.
Yeah. Well, you're like, that's Tommy.
That's just Tommy. Yeah. And then the last thing I had was that I enjoy how they're able to expand on some of the characters from the game and flesh them out more. Mm-hmm. Just because, by the nature of the game, you only see stuff that Joel or Ellie are directly interacting with, whereas in this you don't have to follow Joel. So like in the series we kind of meet Ellie a little bit sooner than you do in the game,
right? As
a viewer, because you're not dependent on seeing her as Joel,
right?
Which is kind of I think that'll be neat going forward to see how it
gives us that outside perspective.
Because we're not strictly Joel,
right?
Which I think might be a challenge for some fans of the game who like a little too deeply identify with Joel. You know what I mean?
What are you talking about? I am one of those people.
I know. But there are people who are worse. There are people who like personally hate a character named Abby because they so deeply identify with Joel. Is that you?
Mm-mm.
No. But that's all I had about characters and chemistry. What do you think about?
As far as characters, Pedro Pascal playing Joel knocked out of the water.
Yeah.
The one thing I did want to point out, though, is I know he did a film that we started to watch, but I think it was getting late and we didn't finish that Pedro Pascal was in, but he had a very southern accent in that.
Yeah.
I was expecting, and I'm not mad about it or anything.
Yeah, he's got less of a deep south.
Yeah, there's not too much of a southern accent on there, but more of just like having that deep, grungy voice.
Yeah.
Which is still fine. And like that could be maybe his adaptation rather than being more like the Troy Baker.
Yeah, and it might have been like he tried it and it just wasn't working. Maybe he couldn't get as much range from...
and that's totally fine. But then as far as Ellie's character with Bella Ramsey, huge fan of her performance, especially like in the characters or in the scenes where lines were, not to connect it to the game, but that are different that, aren't necessarily seen or, in both of them.
Yeah.
It feels very Ellie, which we were talking about. Like we saw that in the trailer, and right off rip, we see that.
Yeah,
and that's very comforting, especially just I wasn't like skeptical about it.
Yeah, but I knew that there was a lot of skepticism, and I think a lot of it just came from her looks.
I didn't think it had anything from her look. I didn't watch Game of Thrones, so I haven't seen any of her work, and I know like that's where she's very known from. Yeah. It's like that's why I was skeptical. I haven't seen it, but seeing that, I'm all for it and everything like that. And then one of the characters I did want to talk about as well was Tess. Dude, Tess is blowing it out. I can't. What's the actress's name?
Who's playing Tess?
Yeah.
Got me lacking.
Yeah, Jimmy, pull that up.
Let's talk about Marlene though.
Oh yeah, Marlene
is actually she's the only actress or character in general who's played by the same person from the game, and I think that's pretty special.
Neat.
Her name is Merle Dandridge. Anna Torv is who's playing Tess.
Anna Torv. But Anna Torv, like starting off, in the story with her character, not going to go into it until spoilers.
Right.
Just phenomenal acting through and through, and then just seeing her interact with Joel. Yeah, and is just phenomenal, and I love it so much. I like Tess in the show, I will say, a lot more than I did in the game, I guess. Maybe just because there's more in depth.
Yeah, we get a little bit more.
Which is like, I like that a lot.
Yeah. You want to rate this bitch?
Yeah.
How do we rate stuff?
Well, of course, you can be, overwhelmed, which means that you're thoroughly enjoyed with the film. Your expectations were met. You can be underwhelmed, which means you really didn't enjoy the film. They were lacking. They got their funny up, not their money up. Or you can always just meet right in the middle and be simply whelmed.
Yeah. And I was overwhelmed.
Yeah. We.
I had high expectations and it met them.
Yeah. We came in this bitch. You know what was happening.
Yeah.
Gas.
Yeah.
We haven't done one in a while. Welcome back to Gas Pass.
Yeah. The Last of Us on HBO.
Gas. Like, it's just done and done. Like, it's routine.
So I want to talk about I've got my spoilers as close to chronological as I could. The cold open with the scientists.
Yes.
On like a talk show in the 60s. I think it was 68.
That was probably the scariest part.
That was spooky as shit.
Like,
you and I were sitting on the couch, like snuggled up, foot to foot, on opposite ends of the couch. And, basically the premise was like, they're just talking about, viruses, right? For some reason, right? For some reason, this late night show had two epidemiologists on, and the one is talking about a virus. And the host kind of turns to the other one and is like, you're an epidemiologist yourself, I'm sure, to the other doctor. And it's like, I'm sure, the idea of a viral pandemic scares you, keeps you up at night. And he's like, nah. He's like, really? And he's like, yeah, we've had tons of viruses in the past. Mankind's always fought viruses. And
we've come out
sometimes
on top.
Millions die, like in a real war, and then we still come out the other side. It's just a part of existing. He's like, but basically the thing that scares me is a fungus. And the audience is kind of like, whatever, dude.
Giggling and stuff like that, and like light laughter.
And even the other scientist is kind of like, whatever, dude. Like,
here we go. And
he's like, there's no premise there's no basis for a fungal outbreak of that extent. He's like, that's true. He's like, as it stands right now, because he starts describing the cordyceps fungus and what it does to ants as far as taking over their brain, and he even points out
Can I explain cordyceps, because we did this in 7th grade? I know everything about it. So the cordyceps is it's a fungus that grows and keeps the animal kingdom, as far as like the insects, at bay. So no one insect can have a higher power. So for example, is if there's a hybrid of grasshoppers or like a high amount of them, the fungus is more likely to infect them than it is to like a lower spider or anything.
Right.
Making that jump over, but essentially what it does is it controls the brain to go back to the hive, to have the spread, and it goes up to high ground, and then it locks on and latches onto whatever it can to have that death grip, and then dies, and then the fungus starts to grow out and starts to spread on the colony, and then from there they move
it keeps
on.
going. Yeah.
Dude, I think it's a fucking crazy concept.
Yeah, and so he talks about how it slowly eats the flesh of the host and replaces it with the fungus itself before, like you're saying, eventually dying and sprouting and spreading. And that it basically turns you into a zombie. Like a host. You have no motor function of your own. It's totally the fungus controlling you.
Spread this disease.
And he even points out like LSD is derived from fungi, and so it's this idea that, he's like, a virus makes you sick, right? But a fungus alters your mind.
Yeah, it's not you.
And so it's like, oh, that's a spooky idea of like, what's scary is what if it controlled you, right? Yeah. It's not you coughing and dying and drowning in blood or whatever, right?
It's you doing something against your will.
It's you disappearing, but your body still exists. And he talked about how, as it stands right now, there's no fungus that can survive above 94 degrees, I think he references.
92. Or 94. No, you're right.
Yeah. And he's like, so, and there's no current need for a fungus to survive at any temperature above that, He's like, but what if the world just got a little bit warmer and the fungus had to adapt to that heat change, that temperature change? He's like, well, then, it's a different game. And the host is kind of like kind of, he was kind of cracking jokes and having back and forth.
But then he same with all the audience as well, which was one of the most dynamic shots I think throughout the entire thing.
Because even when he says like, if the world just gets a little bit warmer, and it is, and you and I looked over at each other like,
Oh, but like throughout the whole thing is like when he's talking, there's laughter, but then once that hits, it slowly starts to die down, and then it shows like
the crowd kind of looks like, oh fuck,
and it's just the different shots and the angles of like how it's kind of crooked, just to really put emphasize like the shock factor and the discomfort, like you're saying.
And
dude,
and the host is like, so if that were to happen, and
we lose,
he goes, we lost, And so then it flashes forward to 2003, which I thought was an interesting... Yeah. Because the game, the outbreak starts in 2013, and then it flashes forward to 2033. So I think it's an interesting choice. I would think from a production standpoint, it would make it easier if you set the outbreak in 2023, because then you don't have to change any technology or anything like that. But they set it in 2003, so like, you're seeing like President George Bush's picture up on the wall in the school and things like that. And, the technology, he's got like a Nokia phone and all that. And it's interesting to see like, okay, what an interesting choice to make.
Another really, thing I enjoyed that's different from the game, I'm not going to talk about how it's different from the game, but, that I liked, is with Sarah. After
you spend more time with her.
Yeah, and after school, she goes over to her neighbor's house.
Yeah, and hanging out with the neighbor.
Yeah, they're obviously Joel's at work, right? So they're hanging out with them, making sure she's getting her homework done and everything like that. But then we start to see early signs.
Yeah, where they're taking care of the she seems like she's invalid. Yeah, she's not speaking. She's deaf. She's immobile. She's in a wheelchair, and they're like literally hand feeding her, and. They've got a nice shot of Sarah looking through the DVDs on the bookshelf, and Grandma's in the wheelchair out of focus in the background, and you can see her like twitching and kind of like contorting her neck and body and stuff.
Which is
and you're like, oh god,
fucking scary.
And you're like waiting on her to get up and attack Sarah or something, and she doesn't, But that was spooky. I was like, oh fuck, oh god. Yeah.
And, also, did you peep the Easter egg that they dropped in the first episode?
Of what the DVD was? Yeah. They referenced the movie from Silent Hill 2, The Last of Us Part 2. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh.
And I like when she goes and gets the watch fixed, and I like that the like maybe the daughter of the shop owner is like, we're closing. Like, you got to go home.
Get out. Go. You need to leave.
You should go home. And you're like, oh, fuck, what's going on?
Yeah, and then by the time that they lock the door, that they're already
by, and jets are flying over, helicopters and stuff, and it's like, what is going on?
Now, what the fuck, dude?
And then it does a very good job of, Joel comes home from work, and it's his birthday, and they're going to watch this movie, and she falls asleep on the couch, and he puts her to bed. And I like that they contextualize why Joel's gone, which is a slight difference from the game.
Yeah.
Where, because, in the game, Sarah wakes up and Dad's gone, right? And you don't know why.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, they're like, Tommy got in a fight at a bar and is in jail.
He's in jail.
And because it's Friday, you got to post my bail now, otherwise I'm going to be here all weekend. And so Joel's like, all right. So he goes and gets him, and that's why he's out. So when Sarah comes to, where's Dad? What's going on? We
already have all the context, so we know. Gives it a little more hindsight.
Yeah, and then. The neighbor's dog is at the front door like, bitch, let me in.
Let me in.
And so she's like, oh, what are you doing? And she's trying to take it home, and that dog like literally fights its way out of its collar and bolts. Yeah. It's like, I'm not going back in there. And she goes creeping in to see what's going on, and that grandma is out of her wheelchair and is eating the mom, and I don't know what you want to call her, her daughter, I think, and then her son-in-law is sitting there with a bleeding throat wound, and we get a weird detail that we didn't get in the show or in the game, which is she's biting the hell out of the back of the neck.
See the fungus,
fungus coming out of her mouth, and it looks like tendrils.
Almost makes me think of like if you get like a zoom up of like a cotton ball and you rip it apart.
Yeah,
that's just kind of
almost
what
looks like hair.
It makes me think of that, almost like that fuzzy moss.
At first, I thought she had like a mouthful of her hair from where she was like biting at the back of her head. Yeah. But then I saw it all moving and kind of like receding back into her mouth. And I was like, ooh. And then she just straight up starts crawling at Sarah. And I was like, oh,
yeah, dude, I fucking hated that.
And freaking Joel and Tommy come speeding up in the truck. Joel steps out, and instead of using his pistol, he has just a pipe wrench and just blaps that old lady one time.
Yeah, gives it a one. Not even two.
Just didn't need a two tap. She's just done. And I mean, she's old, you know.
Nah.
He cracks her with that pipe wrench. She's done. And, Sarah's like, what the hell?
You just
killed her. And he's like, I'm sorry, get in the truck, you know. And they do a very good job of staying as close to the game as you could. I mean, there's a little tweak. But
in that scene, though, when they're driving from the truck, they do have that same you are in the perspective of Sarah being
the camera rotating in the car.
Yes, and
to see what's going on outside.
I like that a lot. They did a really nice job of adapting that from the gameplay into the show, keeping it still similar to like the gameplay. And
there's some beats in that scene that are directly from the game.
Yeah.
With like the burning farmhouse and passing the family on the road. And then it does deviate where they start driving across the field.
Yes.
And then when they get into the town, it kind of fakes you out. Because we will spoil a little bit of the game here.
Sure.
Just to talk about differences. In the game, they get into a car crash with another vehicle.
Yeah.
And they fake you out with that in the show where they're about to get hit, but it doesn't happen. And you're like, oh, okay. And a fucking plane crashes. And shrapnel from the plane wreckage is what hits their vehicle and rolls them, and causes Sarah to have a broken ankle potentially. And then Joel's got to run with her on foot, and he's separated from Tommy, and he ends up getting caught by the military. A soldier out on the outpost, and he's like, "We're not sick. She hurt her ankle, whatever." And the military is on the walkie, and he's like, "Are you sure? All right. Roger that, whatever, right, and takes aim at him, and Joel kind of can read the situation and turns, just in time to take shots in the back from the guy.
And he gets grazed.
And, this is pretty much identical to the game. That Sarah gets shot in the gut, and Tommy comes running up and saves them from the soldier doing a finishing move on him, and Sarah doesn't make it. And
dude, I was crying.
Yeah,
like I had tears rolling down my face.
I didn't think that it was as impactful as the game, the performance wise.
Okay,
but it was still impactful.
Oh,
I cried, but I do think that something that was in this performance versus, because some of the scenes in this episode are directly like word for word from the game, and there's a difference in this where it's really made it actually more sad dialogue-wise, where he turns and says, "Tommy, help me."
Oh,
that I was like, because she's dead. What are you doing?
Anything, yeah.
And that Nico Parker, she sold that.
Yeah,
like she doesn't have any dialogue. I mean, she can't speak. She's in so much
like
pain, and she's squealing. And I mean, she's playing a 13-year-old girl who's been shot and is dying. And it's really
she's just, shaking her head no, like she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, and it's really brutal and like kind of hard to watch. And then it just does like a fade to black 20 years later, just like the game does, and you're like, ooh.
But then I want to talk about that 20 years later when straight up we see this scene.
Yeah, where he's doing a job. So you see a little.
And we see a boy entering the
QZ, the
Boston.
quarantine zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they went from Austin up to Boston.
And they're just doing checks on him, everything like that, and they scan him, and it comes up red, and
which means that he's got the cordyceps.
He's got the cordyceps, and the lady talks to him. She goes, "How about we get you some medicine, right, and get you all the toys that you want to play with, and get you some good food?" And the boy's like, "All right," and then it just cuts to the boy dead, tied up in a truck, waiting to be burned. Yeah,
it cuts hard to Joel doing a job, and his job is burning duty.
And then Tess.
Well, no, it wasn't Tess. It was another woman.
Yeah, but she said that she couldn't.
I can't. And he looks, and it's a kid. And you just see Joel, like, without hesitation, just pick the kid up and throw him into the fire.
And that I think that does a really good job of showing,
because the shot from 20 years ago was him sobbing, holding a dead kid. His kid, obviously. And then this, no hesitation, just throwing a kid's body into a fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it did a really good job showing, like, the disconnection he's at.
Yeah, whatever's happened in these 20 years, he is a different person.
Joel died that day with Sarah.
Right. And I thought it did a pretty decent job of kind of like, you spend a lot more time in Boston in the game because it's all like tutorial stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like pretty snappy, doesn't waste time. Because there's like whole missions in the game of like getting the stuff from Robert and things like that. And this is like, you get to see Tess being, jumped by Robert's guys. Because again, you don't have to see everything from Joel's perspective.
She got a big old shiner on her.
Yeah. And Joel's, I liked the fact that Joel is dealing drugs.
Yeah.
Because there's a reference to Sarah where, he asked her where she got
Drug
the
money.
money, where she got the money to buy the watch. Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs. And he's like, well, you're doing better than me,
Mm-hmm.
And now here he is literally dealing drugs.
Getting money from it.
And
I wanted to go back and talk about Tess
Mm-hmm.
in that opening scene because just seeing all
Robert.
that with Robert
Yeah.
put me in a trance.
Yeah.
And, just seeing that, explosion happen, knocking everyone out of the way.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's a hardcore motherfucker,
Yeah,
dude,
she
because she's
gets
sitting here.
up.
Yeah, and she's sitting there talking like, well, you fucking guy socked me in the face. I want to go home and drink away this fucking until I can't feel my face anymore.
He's like, I just want you to forget about this. And she's like, done. All right, yeah, it's forgotten. He's like, don't do that. Like, he's not buying it, He's afraid of what she's... But I like the implication is he's not afraid of Tess. He's afraid of Joel. And that she's going to turn Joel on.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, don't even worry about him. I won't even...
Yeah.
I'll make up a lie. And he's like, but my guys jumped you and beat you up. And she's like, you're fucking guys. Punish them how you see fit. Like, cut off fingers or something. Whatever you do, whatever. He's like, I don't know, man, And she's like, I promise you, like, Joel is not going to come hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
And then when she goes home to Joel, she's like, she tells him, like, I told Robert, like, he's afraid of you. I told him that you weren't going to hurt him. I would very much like for you to hurt him.
Yeah.
And I like that the implication there is that, like, he's kind of her dog.
Yeah.
As far as, like, that wasn't her talking at him. That was her basically giving him an order.
Yeah.
Of, like, yeah, so you're going to go hurt Robert.
Mm-hmm. He's the muscle.
Yeah.
I mean, which is a big thing about Joel's character. He's a brawler.
Right. Well, yeah. And so I think, and I want to talk about that at the very end of the episode. He has like this, I think I'm using the word correctly, like a proclivity for violence, where, when he sees that Tess has that bruise, he's ready to go kill somebody. She has to talk to him like a kid, calm him down, take a breath. It's okay. Calm down, and soothe him. But then in the same breath go, I told Robert I didn't want, you weren't going to hurt him. I would very much like for you to hurt him. And she does. She kind of talks down to him.
Yeah.
And I did like that they were a bit more blatant in showing that they're a romantic couple.
Yeah.
We're like, and like, Joel, he's a big, strong man. He's comfortable in his sexuality and in his confidence. He's the little spoon,
Oh, yeah.
She comes to bed and big spoons him.
He rolls over.
Yeah. And I thought that was nice because the game kind of implies it, but not that blatantly.
Yeah.
And I do think some of that's just because you got to keep moving.
And listen, there's nothing wrong with being a little spoon.
No,
nothing wrong with it at all.
But, yeah, and so they go and find Robert, and he's already dead. Whereas in the game, there's a lot more, like, they kill him.
And the whole reason why Tess got jumped is because she bought a battery from him, and then he sold it, and she came to go see him to be like, where's my fucking battery? And then she got jumped.
Yeah.
But the thing is Robert tried to sell the battery to somebody else.
Fireflies.
And it was a bad battery.
It was a busted battery, and they just shot him dead.
And he tried to sell it twice.
And I like that they give a justification for the battery, where that wasn't in the game, where Joel's trying to buy this battery because he's trying to go find Tommy.
Yeah.
And so he already has a mission driving him out of Boston. And then he crosses paths with Ellie in that scene when they go to find Robert. Oh, which, by the way, the whole time, Ellie is chained up in the Firefly headquarters.
Yes.
And they're kind of like running tests, air quote, as best as they can.
Making her count to 10, say her name, stick her hand out, anything.
Checking basically her mental faculties.
See if there's any symptoms.
And there's none. And, you don't know what they're getting at, but the reveal is that she's infected. And Marlene is kind of a hard ass. Like, we get to see more Marlene, who's the leader of the Fireflies in Boston, which the Fireflies are basically a resistance against the military
militia.
government. And like at one point they're like, she comes in, did you get those guys sent to the Eastern Wall or whatever? She's like, no. Her lieutenant or whatever is like, no, I didn't. And she's basically like, why are we moving these people, Marlene? And she goes, I'm going to give you a simple answer. Follow orders.
Yeah.
And then she tells the two people that are standing there, go get to the Eastern Wall.
And they do, without hesitation.
Yes, ma'am. Basically, don't question me. Just do what I say. And then she does explain.
It's a good explanation.
We're attacking, we're not just attacking all over the city. We're attacking everywhere but here because we're here. Right? And we want them looking everywhere but here. And it's like, there's method in my madness. Don't fucking question me.
Right.
Right? And you're like, she's a hard, leader.
She knows what she's doing.
Yeah. That same lieutenant questions Marlene's Like, they've been in this firefight with Robert. They run in with Joel. And Marlene's been shot. And she was originally, they're going to take Ellie out of the city tonight. They don't have a battery. And Marlene's wounded, so they're not going to be able to move her tonight. Joel, will you take her? Yeah. Right? And they're kind of, it's the, no, I don't want to do this, whatever. We don't move children or whatever. And I don't remember what her lieutenant's name is.
We don't smuggle people.
Yeah, and I don't remember what her lieutenant's name is, but she's basically like, I can do it. And she goes, you don't have a fucking ear on your head. Yeah. They will do it. And it looks at her, and like she's had her ear shot off.
Yeah.
And the poor woman's face is just kind of like,
just so defeated. Like,
damn, man. We laughed. Yeah, we laughed. We were like, fuck. Yeah, she was, you don't got a fucking ear on your head. How are you going to do it? And you're like, boo.
Yikes.
But, yeah, and so Joel and Tess are trying to figure out how to get her out of the city. Mm-hmm. So they go to this apartment that they've got right near the wall.
Yep.
And it's straight from the game, where Joel lays down on the couch, and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, killing time.
Killing time.
She's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And he goes, I'm sure you will figure that out. And she tells him, your watch is broken. And that's kind of the sad reminder. Is like, it's the watch that his daughter had fixed for him on the day she died. Yep. And now it's broken again. And there's a nice little detail of that they've been using the radio as codes with Bill and Frank. Mm-hmm. Where if it's a song from the
80s, it was bad news. 70s.
70s was new stuff.
Yeah.
And 60s was basically no news.
Yeah.
If there's 60s music, it's like a whatever. If there's 70s music, it's, hey, we've got new stuff for sale. Mm-hmm. And then 80s music just has a red X, and she's trying to figure out what that means. So when he takes his nap and wakes up, she goes, hey, a song came on, and she's referencing Wake Me Up Before You Go from Wham. And he's like, gets all, what? And she's like, okay, I was fucking with you, but that means 80s is bad. He's like, oh, you little bitch. You know?
You're finding out.
And I do like that you see Ellie kind of not coming right out and being afraid, but asking questions about the outside that show that she's kind of afraid, you know?
Yeah.
Where she's like, have you ever been out there? And he's like, yeah. She's like, often? And he's like, yeah. She's like, when's the last time? He goes, I don't know, maybe a year ago. And he kind of sees that she's worried, and he kind of sits forward and tries to talk to her, which is like, he's still a dad.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't matter how hard he is, it's instinct, you know.
His blood.
Yeah. This little girl's concerned, and he's going to sit forward and try and comfort her as cold as he is, right? Mm-hmm. And so they get outside the wall with Tess, and so yeah, they get outside the wall, and it's, you know, they're moving under the cover of darkness, and they're kind of dodging the spotlights and stuff, and basically Tess tells, you know, Ellie, like, you stay right on me, and we'll just keep moving. And she's like, yeah, you know, and they're moving, and they end up coming through a gap, and the guard that Joel was selling drugs to earlier is standing there taking a piss, and he's like, hey, you know, and makes them all get on their knees. We're gonna do this by the book, you know, and we're gonna scan you all, right? And so they start doing the infection checks, and gets to Ellie, and as he scans her, she turns and stabs him in the leg, and, you know, the guy's getting ready to shoot her, and Joel kind of steps up and gets in the way, and, you know, they're trying to talk the guy down, and he has like an actual PTSD flashback where he's back there the night that Sarah got killed, gun in the face and all that, and Pedro Pascal does a really good job of, like, you see on his face where, like, he's sad and scared for a minute, and then just is seeing red. He goes into pure rage and tackles the guy to the ground, and then just beats him to death with his fist. And I thought a neat detail was that Ellie isn't afraid of him. You know, like,
but she was shocked.
Well, she looked like she was intrigued. Like, she was kind of leaning forward, like, trying to get a look. Which is, you know, if you know Ellie, that makes sense, because there's kind of an interesting bond between the two of them where they both have a pretty deep character flaw in it, is that, you know, they're violent people, and they don't know how to handle their emotions.
Not the best at it.
Not their strong suit.
Not their forte.
And that's when they realize that you know, after he's beat that guy to death, and he's kind of like, sorry, you know, don't know what came over me.
Almost lost my cool.
And, yeah, right. And Tess picks up the scanner and sees that it's red and that she's infected.
And they're starting to freak the fuck out.
And Ellie's like, no. And shows the bite wound on her arm, and is like, that's 3 weeks old. And, like,
no one's made it past a day.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm fine. And so that, you know, basically that's the deal. And then the guards are kind of starting to move in on, so they have to just trust her and move. And they go under the fence out into the, you know,
the open.
Now you're out in the
real world.
In the wasteland, right? And somebody pointed out on TikTok, there's actually a clicker on a building roof.
Oh.
In like the distance. as they're, as the lightning is flashing and you can see the two buildings leaning on each other.
Yeah.
In the side, there's a building with a clicker on the roof just squealing into the sky. And it's like, oh, and that's how the episode ends. And I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good.
That's a good first
stopping
episode.
point for, it's like, all right, he's met Ellie and, they're moving. That's
it almost, and I hate to compare it to the game. It almost feels like that's a good end of the cutscene.
Yeah. And so
like as a person who has played the video game, that feels like a good natural stopping
transition point.
Right.
And I do know that, so we talked about that originally it was going to be 10 episodes and it got condensed down into 9. Apparently that scene is why, or that section is why, is because originally it was going to basically end at the 20 years later. The first episode would jump forward to the 20 years later and you'd see that stuff with Joel burning the body, and that would that's the end of the episode. Is like, oh man, something's happened. These 20 years have been rough on him, right? Mm-hmm. But the whole point of the show is going to be him and Ellie. Yeah. So you kind of need him to meet Ellie. Yeah. In that first episode.
I think they did it right.
And that was a good call to keep it moving. But that's all I had about it. Do you have anything you want to fill in or?
No, I mean
we were pretty thorough.
Yeah, we both were shooting back and forth about it. No, I was a big fan of it. I'm excited to see what they're doing in the future, as well as like some of the practical effects that they plan on doing. Yeah, as far as like
because I think we're going to see Infected next week.
Yeah, as as well as seeing that Infected on the wall spread out.
Yeah,
and the fungus on it was a very interesting, very beautiful.
Yeah, it's
in a weird way of. Yeah, that's just nature.
It's just nature. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't some violent thing that happened. It's just nature.
It's weird. It's almost like it's gory in the sense of like that's something that almost you'd think of like if someone were to get shot, right? And you'd think like the blood would splatter on the wall. That's what it would look like. Yeah. As if it just turned into fungus. Yeah. And I thought it was very cool and interesting to look at.
Yeah. They did release a little trailer called like The Weeks Ahead. And it was like a minute and 20 seconds. It was just a brief little trailer. But if you've played the game, there's some good little snippets in there that make you go, oh, shit, I can't wait to see that.
Oh, fuck.
Like, I'll just say one word to you. Hospital. I'm like, oh, fuck.
I can't wait for that part.
Yeah. But, Chris, what you been thinking about?
I think what you meant to say is, welcome back to Chris's Cryptid Corner.
Forget what your fucking corner was called?
No, I was going to say Chris's Constipated Colon, but I'm your host, Chris, and this week we'll be talking about the beast of the land between the lakes.
Oh, all right.
So the beast of the land between the lakes is in the state of Kentucky.
Good old Kentucky.
Good old Kentucky. It is said to resemble a gigantic half-man, half-wolf that walks on two legs, has a five-fingered humanoid, ending in a five-fingered human hand ending in vicious claws. The creature is said to stand over 7 feet tall with massive crushing jaws and glowing red eyes.
Is this boy related to the Beast of Brett Road?
No. No.
All right.
No, it's not. So, good try.
Yeah. Points for effort,
So here I'll be reading just more of like a sighting story that I found that I thought was really interesting. So there have been several reports of encounters with the creature in modern times, and one of the most frightening story is the group of Murray State University students who went camping in the land between the lakes in 1973. 1973, excuse me. A group of young men were enjoying the woods on a warm spring weekend, sitting around the fire they've built with their Volkswagen microbus and generally just having a fine time. As the evening began drawing in, one of the students went off to the woods, as nature calls. Yeah. When he returned to the campsite, he had told his friends that he had felt like something was watching him, and he heard something shuffling in the woods. His friend said that he had just heard a wild hog or some other animal and blew it off.
Yeah.
The student said he had never heard anything like that before, and he grew increasingly nervous as darkness gathered. As the night grew dark, the group started to hear more shuffling of the sound of something large moving in the fallen leaves. It seems to be circling the campsite, hunting, moving incredibly swift. the boys began to become anxious. They shined their flashlights into the woods in the direction of the footsteps, but saw nothing. Then the howling began. It was wild and insane howling like a wolf, only much louder. An unnatural, blood-curdling quality that made the howling sound almost like mocking laughter. It seemed to come from everywhere around them. The first one side of the circle of the light around the fire, and then from another. Soon the terrified campfires began to catch glimpses of the pair of the glowing red eyes as they ran past in the dark. The terrified boys retreated to their Volkswagen bus and wisely decided not to stick around to get a better view.
Shit, yeah.
Tearing down the road, they soon saw that they were being pursued, that a massive shadowy figure was racing behind them, barely visible in the bus's taillights. As the bus slowed down the corner, they felt a massive jolt, and then it seemed as if something was holding the Volkswagen back. Given it everything they got and putting the pedal all the way to the floor, they finally broke free and tore out of the forests and didn't stop until back at campus. On campus, they found deep gashes like claw marks torn into the side of the car of the engine compartment cover at the back of the bus.
Jesus.
So something was tearing that thing up.
Yeah, trying to keep them back.
Mm-hmm. I think that's spooky.
Yeah.
There are some things, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, taking a piss in the woods, like, at night and hearing shuffle, like, that is when you are most vulnerable. And that's for anybody.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're taking a shit. Like, you're not ready to fight somebody.
No, huh?
Especially in the woods. If I'm on, like, the latrine, like, here in the house or something, someone comes in, I might have an angle on them.
Right,
you know? But, like, in the woods? Nah,
back
I'm
against
out.
a tree, just praying, you know?
Yeah, I'm more worried about the fucking spiders making sure they don't crawl off the tree onto
making sure I use the right type of leaf, you know?
Yeah.
You don't want poison oak on the boo hole, you know?
But so stuff like that always gives me the willies. Just like spooky things in the woods. I used to go ghost hunting a lot in high school.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll definitely talk about some of those stories in the future too, because I got some good ones. But I don't know. What have you been thinking about?
So first off, in line with our topic, HBO is putting out a companion podcast to go with The Last of Us. Week to week, it'll just be like, here's our thoughts on this episode. And it's actually being hosted by Troy Baker, who was the voice of Joel in the video game, and is going to be, it seems like each week will be the same trio. It'll be Troy Baker, Neil Druckmann, who is the creator of the video game and is also a writer, director, and co-head of the show, and then Craig Mazin, who's another co-head of the show.
If Troy Baker doesn't do the Joel voice for the entirety of the podcast, I'm not going to listen.
He's not. He's just being Troy Baker. But
there goes my listen.
But it's interesting because it's a lot of like inside baseball and like behind the scenes stuff where they're talking about how they got the show made and why they made the decisions they did and things like that, and where it differs from the game and why that was different. And they did talk about how, kind of like I mentioned here, you know, the mere fact of us not being stuck to the perspective of Joel, does offer up some different, you know, different character moments where we can see what's going on with Marlene right now.
And I feel like that's a really good opportunity to take, especially with not to be like the lore of the characters, but the lore of the characters, especially in a world like that.
not to be like the lore of the characters, but the lore of the characters.
Just because, you know, they're all really well-developed characters in the games, and we only see snippets of them. So, like, you know, giving the opportunity to see more of them, that makes me excited that it's going to be different, because it's going to be, you know, okay, we've seen these characters, we know it's them regardless, you know, even off script, so, you know, why not see more?
Yeah, and I'm just excited to see what comes out of the stuff that, you know, they're using in the show that was at one point going to be in the game, and they ended up not using it in the game, but now they have opportunities to use it in the show. Apparently we're going to see a different type of infected. That was originally going to be in the game and then wasn't, and so it's going to be a show exclusive, right? Which is pretty exciting.
Banging.
Gas.
Welcome back to the S-Pass.
Gas. But then also, we've been playing a little sneaky cheek on some Valheim. Building us a little homestead.
You know.
Yeah, you're over there building a little castle. You know?
Dude, I am.
Or a little fortress.
let me just break this down for you. So I am like obviously the builder, and you are the hunter.
You're the homemaker,
you are the gatherer.
literally. Yeah.
And
I'm the hunter gatherer. You're the homemaker,
the trophy wife.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the builder, and I've been building all the 2 houses we have, and then we have a barn.
Yeah.
And then we have a perimeter fence going around, and I just expanded so we can build another farm.
Like a farm, like
for plotting fields, because
like
this one we have boar.
Boar that we're
farming and breeding.
Yeah.
Taming. But I don't know. Like, I got a lot of plans, and I think the first build I had was good.
Yeah.
The addition I had to it was okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it was the best. But then the second building I made...
Yeah, you made like a longhouse?
Dude, that looks just... Like, you look at that, and I think that's either one Norse from the game or two, like, Norse, just because it's almost like that tent style.
Yeah.
Reach the roof just touching all the way to the ground, and then having the dragon on the end there. What else you been thinking about?
That's it. What you been thinking about? Valheim.
Yeah, I've been thinking about Valheim, obviously. Playing that's been a lot of fun. I think we talked about it last week. I've been talking about it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
GTA 6 leaks come out.
Yeah.
And I love looking at them.
Yeah.
I've been really big into that. I did want to say more of news, but also is incorporating into what I've been thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I sent a tweet about it, and you can always check that out on our Twitter. Our Twitter handle is whelmed_simply. But let me see here the day before came out, and they tweeted that they are going to be showing raw gameplay footage later this month. January. And everyone's kind of about it.
Yeah.
But then as well as Hogwarts Legacy's been coming out. I've been getting excited more about the new video games coming out. That's what I've been thinking about lately.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the Dead Space remake coming out at the end of this year. Or end of this month, January 27th.
But I wish there was like a thing I could get where I could just play all the games. Like every game that comes out, I can just play.
It's called money.
Something else.
You could pirate them.
I think... Keep talking.
That's illegal. And so, obviously, we wouldn't do that.
For legal reasons, this is a joke.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's really all I've been thinking about.
Yeah. The only other thing I'll mention that I've been thinking about is I am now the official co-host of...
I heard. Congratulations.
Thank you. Of A Couple of Creeps.
Yeah.
That is hosted by Morgan, my wife.
My wife. I'm going to just have to start a single standalone podcast.
Yeah, right. And just...
It's just me singing the blues.
You call it a single creep?
A single creep. Singing the blues.
Yeah. But, and you don't even talk about creepy stuff.
No,
You're just a single creep.
I just sing the blues with my harmonica.
You sing love songs. That's creepy. But no.
I'm all Greg.
Well, a couple weeks ago, we talked about, on A Couple of Creeps, we talked about the real town in Pennsylvania that inspired Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Last week we talked about allegedly the world's most haunted forest in Romania. Whoa. And then this coming week we'll be talking about some fungus stuff to go along with The Last of Us. Ooh. So tune into that every Sunday at 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
A Couple of Creeps. So, again, we want to thank you guys so much for your attention and support. If you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a great review. Tell your friends about us. Obviously, word of mouth is a big help. Share us on social media. Leave us like 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts.
I'd love to see them.
Yeah, bring them in, you know. Obviously, you got to like, follow, subscribe, whatever the verbiage is on your podcast, platform of choice.
Yeah.
Just make sure that you're following us so that whenever we post our episodes on Wednesdays at 8, you get notifications about it. Chris, if people want to get in touch with us, give us some feedback or ask us questions, how do they do that?
Yeah, of course. You can always take a look at us on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, which is going to be Simply Whelmed Podcast. You can always take a look at our Twitter handle, which is going to be whelmed_simply. Or if you wanted to send us an email, death threats, tell us a story about how you shit your pants, you can always reach out to us at simplywhelmedmailbag@gmail.com. Dude, I'm too fucking good at it.
You were all right at it, I'll tell you.
Like, you tried it, and you fumbled hard. Like, hard.
I didn't fumble hard.
You stumbled. You got me tripping. Oh, stumbling. Oh.
Next week, we're going to be talking about some of the movies that we didn't get to talk about last year. So we're thinking
Bullet Train,
The Menu, and maybe All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, I'm going to try to see that one. I am going to go try to see Babylon at some point. Yeah. Or just some other movies. Maybe I'll go see Pussy in Boots. Or Puss in Boots, excuse me.
Puss in Booties, you know.
I think it's something like that. What is it? Pirate Booty?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but no. So we're going to be talking about some movies that we're going to try and catch up on. And then the following week, I think we're going to do a little book club. And each read like an indie comic or something outside of the Marvel DC.
Is there a certain comic that you were thinking of?
I think I've brought it up on here before, but I think I would like to talk about sex criminals.
Yeah, I'd love to learn more about it, especially when you're talking about it last time. It was really, it seems really funny and interesting.
Yeah, where it's a comedy, but it's also kind of like a crime. What do you mean?
Is it like explicit?
Yeah, you see like dick. You don't see penetration or nothing, but like
get it away from me.
You see flaccid penis and you see breasts.
There's no penetration,
and they're vulgar. They're swearing and all that, but.
If there's no penetration, what am I reading?
There's an excellent, just a little teaser. There's an excellent joke in there where the male of the couple hates his job. And, the premise is that whenever they have an orgasm, time stops. And so he will go to the bathroom at work and
just work one out.
Yeah, he'll have an orgasm, right? Pause time and go take a shit in his boss's office plant. And then just goes back about his stuff, so that like the boss is like, I swear to God, whoever is shitting in my plant, like he's putting signs up and stuff, and, and they're never gonna catch him,
Yeah, they'll never know.
But yeah, so it's got a nice tone of like being comedic, but also having some like crime thriller to it, where they're like doing bank heists and stuff, and so yeah, it's a pretty good read.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe doing like Hellboy, or I know I talked about like Berserker, with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah,
so I'm kind of in the toss up between them, but also I was recommended to do some of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, because they are very gory.
I want to read the last. Oh, what's it called? The Last Ronin. The Last Ronin.
Yeah,
where it's like the far future, and 3 of the Ninja Turtles are dead, and there's only one left, and you don't know which one it is.
And there's a theory about it that it's Mikey.
Yeah. So I'd be excited to see.
That'd be really cool.
I've heard it's really good.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
because I can always just pick up on Hellboy through like what
they are. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are unofficially connected to Daredevil.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
So the accident that causes the chemicals to splash in Matt Murdock's eyes, right? Sends chemicals down into the sewers and creates the turtles.
Yeah.
And you figure what are the ninjas that Daredevil fights? They're the Hand, right? They fight the Foot Clan.
Yeah. Yep.
and and so they're unofficially, because they're not owned by Marvel, but like the original comic is like very vaguely, that's definitely an accident, and here's a kid and all that. And that causes the Ninja Turtles, and so they're unofficially also
I didn't know that.
Also a victim of that accident. But that's the end of the show, Chris. Tell everybody bye.
Bye.
Dose.
I want us to put in our description, like the first thing, we got our money up. Not our funny up.